Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, I would like to talk about negotiating for the best possible price on a watch you want. And so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start off with a watch that was recently purchased and bought for a great price. And it's a great watch, at least in my opinion, it is. This is a friend of mine and lives in the Great Southwest. Got this watch recently, and it's a Colpa Parmigiani Fourier Colpa Hebdo de Mare. Okay, it's one of my favorite. It is my favorite Colpa. It really is. It's a magnificent watch. First of all, it's hand wound, which I love. The the shape of the movement matches the shape of the watch itself. It has a tonneau shape, and if you flip it over, you can see this gorgeous movement in the back that fits the case itself. And what this allows, beside just the art of it, is to use that space as efficiently as possible. You can put in a bigger balance wheel. You have room to do things, as opposed to this is a watch I truly love, but given its shape, they weren't about to go ahead and put in a make a shape movement like that. And so what they did, they used a Frederick Piguet movement and put that in it and fixed it up a little. But it was basically a round movement in a whatever this is called, whatever shape that's called, case. But here's one when in looking at this hebdo de mare. Hebdo de mare is basically, it's a French word that means weekly. And so you wind this up at the beginning of the week and you're all set for the week. And I really like this particular one with the black dial and then the silver indexes and the subdial with the seconds, and at the bottom of the subdial a decent size date window, and just a gorgeous looking watch. I really like this one and then it has the blue outline around the indexes. Okay, so let's talk about negotiating for a watch. Okay, now the most important thing that you can do on any watch purchase ahead of time is to do your research. Okay, the goal isn't to try to screw anyone. You're not out to do that. You're not going to screw a fellow collector who's selling his watches, and you're not trying to screw someone who makes their livelihood by selling watches. What you're doing is you're trying to stretch your watch dollar as far as possible. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to haggle." Then don't. Okay, this video probably isn't for you. But it's not haggling. It's really being smart about watch purchases. So let's take a look at some of the what I'll call the tips for negotiation. The most important is do your research. You've got to do your homework. You've got to know what you're talking about, because if you could negotiate on a crummy watch and you'll still end up with a crummy watch, even if you get a good price. The other part of it is knowing the value of a watch. The Parmigiani I just showed you is a great example of a very undervalued watch. They're fantastic watches. They're very well made. Last year, the 2017 Grand Prix, they won 2 awards. It doesn't happen too often. It doesn't happen too often that anyone wins 1, let alone 2. So it's a brand, and there are lots and lots of very good buys on this. And so and the deal that was made on the one we just showed was very good. And so instead of spending, I don't know what the $20,000 or something like that, it was a good deal less than that. I mean, like a fraction of that. And you end up with this wonderful watch. I mean, really a true high horology watch for the price that you can pay for standard horology, actually. It was that good of a deal. One of the best deals I've ever seen on that. Okay, but you got to know about that. You've got to know your stuff. You have to know about that watch. You have to know about what it does. And for whatever reason, I mean, the dealer, the person selling this watch, he or she may only care about, look, I gotta move this thing because people don't want it. They want to buy a Rolex, they want to buy an Omega, they want to buy a Patek Philippe. They can sell those all day long. Okay, these watches they can't. But if you're smart enough and you know about the brand, you can find some fabulous deals on it and get a much better watch than people who pay a whole lot more for it than you do. But that's only if you know the watch. And it doesn't have to be a Parmesan. It can be any watch. There's this one, I'm not a big fan of Cartier watches, mainly because they, at least in the past, they have put in these cheap movements and sell them for, try to get a lot of money for them. But every now and then, something really good comes along. And this a company called THA that used to, I don't think they're around anymore, but they used to make the movements for watches. And it was made up of, I think the people who started it was F.P. Journe and a couple other just super top watchmakers who have their own companies now. But it was that one movement, and you have to know that, and that takes a lot of, you have to spend time just finding out about watches, okay? And the ones you want, you got to find out as much as possible. One of the things that's happened to me in the past, I've done my research. I found out the watch, it's got a cheap movement in it. Didn't have what I thought. And so I didn't want it anymore. Or if I did want it, I'd know that I wouldn't have to pay a whole lot of money for it. So again, research first, last, always. Do your research, okay? All right, now the next thing has to do is talking with a friend, and we both said luck trumps everything. Something can fall in your lap. Somebody comes along, oh, I got to get rid of this watch. And it turns out to be this super expensive watch, but they're not gonna ask much for it. They just want to sell it because they need the money for something, and that's just dumb luck. Or something else happens that's dumb luck that has a watch that you want. Now, there's a saying that fortune favors the prepared mind. And so if somebody drops something like the Hope Diamond in front of you and you don't know what it is, it's not good luck. I mean, it's very bad luck that you didn't know about that. So the luck part is enhanced a great deal by the research you do, by the knowledge you have. And, I'm not talking about go do your homework in terms of some kind of drudgery, but rather the kind of exploration and finding out about watches that's fun for watch collectors to do. Okay. Now, another thing is if you go into a watch store to buy a watch with that in mind, and especially for the first time, first impressions are the most important, okay? Always, you only can make a first impression once. And so if you go into it, put on your nicest clothes, wear your best watch. If you don't have a good watch, if your best watch is a Fossil, something like that, don't wear it. Don't go into a store looking looking sort of down at the heels the first time. I've gone in later on, but the first time you want to make a good impression, I'll wear my very best watch. So they'll know I'm a serious watch collector. Okay, I know that may sound like, oh, that's so phony. Okay, call it that if you want. Call it what you want. All right. Getting a good deal is not phony, though. So just a tip. Okay. All right. If you negotiate a discount, all right, let's say, and this, most of my watches, in fact, possibly all of them, I think, lately anyway, have been online. All right. So I've got to negotiate online. Now, so if you make an offer, you say, let's say there's a $10,000 watch, and it's advertised for $10,000, and it doesn't matter whether it's new, unworn, or it's a used watch, and you say, okay, I'm going to offer $7,000 for it, for a $10,000 watch that's out there, and the person comes back, done. You weren't expecting it. You better be ready to take it. I mean, if you're going to bid, no matter what it is, you better be ready to take it. This was one that I got at a great price, one I love, and I offered half, and they said okay. That was like, what? And so I immediately bought it. So it's the kind of thing that, if you're sometimes I put in a very, very low price, hoping they won't take it because I probably shouldn't buy it. And you'd be surprised how many great deals you get when it's going to really stretch you. But so if you make an offer, you gotta be ready to pay it right then and there. Now another thing, the kind of offer that you make has got to be realistic. And by realistic, I mean, realistic in the context of the watch. I mean, of a certain type of watch. The one on this one, I didn't think they'd take it, but I really wanted it because it's got a neat movement to it, and I thought, well, I'll just try it. It's just one of those things, and boom, I got it right away. That's happened with this watch. This is my little Zenith, and the reason that I got it again was the research. This had come originally with a metal bracelet. I read it, and in the fine print it said, "Oh, the person who owned this previously took some links out of the bracelet." And so you're gonna, if your wrist is bigger than 6.5 inches, you're gonna have to get some more links for it. Well, nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted this watch, and so I thought, well, I'll put it on a low ball and see what happens. Again, they took it. Paying attention to things, doing your research. All right, so the negotiation part is one thing. Now, if they take your initial offer, then the deal is done and you didn't have to do much work at all. On the other hand, when you make an offer that's not accepted, there are different reactions that you can get. On the one hand, one reaction is, hit the road, Jack. I mean, from them, we don't want to talk to you. But if they do, I wouldn't want to deal with them. Trust me, I won't at all. I'll hit the road. On the other hand, they'll say, "Oh, that's we can't afford to sell it for that," and whatever response was, and they can do one of two things. They simply say, "Well, we can't do that." And what I did once, I had made an offer on a watch overseas, and the person said, "Well, send a courier by, and the courier can pick it up and take it to FedEx and ship it to you." What? I'm not going to do that. And I tried to, and so I thought, I'm not going to deal with it. I don't want to deal with anybody who does that after negotiating in good faith. So I ended up talking to an AD. In fact, it was a owner of a shop, and so I told him, well, he had a watch like it, except it was much better. It was newer and just nicer. And so I said, look, how close can you come? And I mentioned the price that I had to this. He came very close and gave me a great offer. So, there are all kinds of ways, kinds of things you can do like that. Okay. Um, Now, when you negotiate, you don't want to get into a fight, okay? These guys that come on in your face, I know what I'm doing, and I know what that watch is worth, and blah, 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 blah. Forget about it. You don't want to do that. Um, on this particular watch, I had an offer, and the person I was dealing with wasn't the, he really didn't know watches that well. Don't ever assume that. It just in this particular case, it was it. The guy they had sort of a combination um, pawn shop and jewelry store and so forth, and watches weren't really they weren't like a true watch dealer. So when but he looked up what a Vacheron Constantin was and popped up a price. And I forgot what I offered a couple $1,000 below it, and the guy said, "Oh, that's ridiculous. Don't even." I said, "Well, all right. Well, I said maybe you can think about it. I'm not going to think about that at all." So okay. So the next day I contacted him. I said, "Look, okay, I'll offer a little more," and I did, and he took it. So I mean, it wasn't. You never want to breach that connection. Okay, so you always want to be nice. Um, know what you can afford. Don't ever make an offer you can't afford. That's sort of a corollary to that if you do make an offer, you better go through with it. But for your own, you know, you know, divorce lawyers cost a lot of money. Let me put it that way. So don't do that. Um, be patient. Patience is always important. There was a watch that I bought. I I don't know how. It took me months. I gave an offer and the offer was rejected. I waited a month and the watch was still there. So I came back. I said, "Well, have you thought about this? I'm still interested." And no, no. And so finally he said, "Oh, well, heck, if you want it that bad, I'll." And that was it. And I got it for a great price. But that was patience. If you're impatient to get something, you're always going to pay more. It's just going to happen. Are you ever going to lose a watch because of patience? Yes, you will. Sometimes you're going to lose it. You say, "Well, I'll wait until they come down and stuff," and boom, somebody else comes and gets it. That can happen. Okay, but patience in the long run wins out. Um, Tell other collectors what you're looking for. That's important because it's sort of like instead of two eyes, you got 1,000. Says, "Oh, hey, Joe wants this watch. I heard he mentioned it." So he contacts Joe, says, "Hey, Joe, I saw this watch for sale that you're interested in. They had a real good price for it." Boom. So that's one thing. So me, there were a bunch of watches I told people about, and they went out and bought them. I couldn't get them, so you got to watch that sometimes. But I think it's a good idea. Okay, out of state. Oh boy, that's such a immediately you save whatever the sales tax is. I go to New York City, and there's a 8.5% sales tax. Well, you're talking on a $20,000 watch that gets into some real money. The other hand, if I go over to New York, find something I want, and I say come home back here to Connecticut and say, "Okay, I'm going to buy that watch," I can get it for the price that we had negotiated, and they can ship it to me, and it's perfectly legal, and I don't pay tax on it. So that's one thing you should always do. Now, the final thing, there's certain places, and you probably have your own place, and I'd love to hear which places you've had. These are some places I've seen some really good prices at, and even with the good prices, you want to negotiate. It's never the final price, okay? So here are some places that have good prices. You can negotiate, and you should. All right, the ones that I dealt with and others I know about. I think there are five of them here. First of all, is Shopworn. Got a great buy on a Parmigiani Hemispheres. Great watch. Joma Shop. I saved a bundle on a Vacheron Constantin. And these are all new both of those are new watches. Gym Nation. Um, Gym Nation is one where I found some really good buys that sometimes and other times aren't. Go figure. Time of Switzerland. If you're okay with buying overseas, Time of Switzerland is a good outfit to deal with. I've had very good luck with them. Now, one that had some great prices, and they all got bought up. They had some fabulous prices on these H. Mosers, and they got hit like some poor cow crossing a river by piranhas. People, as soon as they found out about it, now it's in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Some people feel nervous about that, not because it's it's because it's overseas and they don't know much about Kuala Lumpur or Malaysia. It's any. Let me tell you, if you can trust a Swiss banker, you can trust some guy selling watches out of Kuala Lumpur. Believe me. Okay, well, listen. This is what I would really like to do is to get your tips. What have you done? What do you think about some negotiation deals? And like I said, I don't I will argue with anyone that the two most important things are your research and good fortune. But good fortune favors those who have done the research. Okay, well, as always, this is an invitation to subscribe if you'd like. This is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.